Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho. It is a Tuesday, the 25th of March, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. Contrary to rumors, a Chinese ministry official states that former President Rodrigo Duterte did not seek asylum in China. The Philippines seeks Interpol's help to track Filipinos abroad spreading fake news. Let's hear more from NBI Director Jaime Santiago later in the program. Filipino tennis ace Alex Ayala advances to the Miami Open quarterfinals. This comes after her round of 16 opponent, Paula Badosa, withdrew from the competition. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on our agenda. Vice President Sara Duterte clarified her remarks comparing her father to the late Senator Ninoy Aquino Jr. She also dispelled the impression that she called for President Bongbong Marcos's resignation. Jovi Francisco with the story.
Despite the cold weather, supporters waited outside the Scriveningen prison for any sighting of visiting relatives and allies of former President Rodrigo Duterte. The long wait paid off when Vice President Sara Duterte arrived and talked to them. This was also an opportunity for the VP to clarify some of her statements during Sunday's meet and greet at a park here in The Hague. She's aware that the comparison she made about her father and the late Senator Ninoy Aquino elicited reactions back home.
Ang binabasihan lang natin is kung ano yung nangyari noon. Nangyari noon, hindi naman mabura kung ano yung nangyari sa kaysaysayan. Ito ay nagpapakita kung ano yung kapasidad o capacity nila. Hindi naman si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte ang nagsasabi na magiging Ninoy siya, Aquino. Ang nagsabi nun ako at hindi si Pangulong Duterte.
Correct.
Those were my fears for the life of my father.
She also corrected impressions that she demanded President Bongbong Marcos to resign, pointing out that it was the supporters who chanted the resignation call and that she just wants them to enumerate their reasons.
Wala akong sinasabi ever na magdapat mag-resign.
Baka totoo kayo.
Ang sinabi ko lang kahapon,
Andun siya kahapon eh.
Nanawagan
Andun siya
kayo
kahapon,
ng
si Maris.
resign. Bigyan nyo ng rason kung bakit yan ang panawagan ninyo sa kanila. And then I gave them example.
But when asked if she's ready to run and take on the role of chief executive, she gave an uncertain reply.
So mahirap paasahin ang mga tao tapos alam mo namang hindi ka magtatagumpay sa kandidatura mo. So kailangan paniguraduhin na mananalo para nabibigay yung expectation. That we have to see by the numbers and by science and mathematics.
The Vice President will stay in The Hague until the composition of his father's legal team is finalized, but her mother will soon join her in The Hague. And this week, just in time for former President Duterte's 80th birthday, Kitty Duterte and her mother will also arrive at the Netherlands.
Wala man kaming problema, kaming magkakapatid, wala man kaming problema. Yung mga nanay namin may problema.
Reporting from The Hague, Netherlands, Jovi Francisco. We are One News.
Now let's talk to One News Senior Manager Jovi Francisco, who joins us live from The Hague in Netherlands. Good morning to you. Mukhang umaga dyan sa background mo. Oo.
Morning, Gretchen. Sorry, hindi na ako lumabas kasi kahapon sinabi mo ang tapang ko sa labig. Well, hindi ako matapang ngayon. Medyo this morning.
Malamig, oo.
I had to stay inside the room para ibigay sa atin yung medyo mahabang ambush interview. Sanay ka naman na mahaba magbigay ng ambush interview si VP Sara dito, no. So marami pa siyang content. Syempre ang niline up natin sa voice over package na yun are just at least the three controversial statements she made na kailangan niya i-clarify from that meet and greet doon sa park kahapon or Sunday.
Okay, Jovi, napansin ko medyo marami-raming tao, no? Doon sa labas ng Scriveningen prison. What time did you see the Vice President come out of that?
Okay, you know that my target yesterday or earlier today was to to seek and ask questions sa lawyer kay Attorney Nick Kaufman, but no show or hindi nagpakita. Siguro talagang hindi mo na siya magsasalita, no. So kaya nagulat kami, malapit na sana i-pack up, dahil pahapon na mga bandang 1:30 na, and biglang dumating si Vice President Sara Duterte. And of course, pag 1:30, she will use up the 2 hours allotted sa visit ng relative. So, maximize niya yun, saka pa lang siya lumabas. Kaya medyo na delikado yung ibang live natin kahapon, Gretchen, dahil kasabay nung live ng mga newscast natin or programs, yung mahabang ambush interview kay Vice President Sara Duterte.
Gusto ko muna puntahan, Jovi, yung mga nilagay mo dun sa iyong VO report, no? Speaking of the reference to Ninoy Aquino Jr., she said that this reflected her own fears for her father's life. Pinaliwanag niya ba yun? Meron bang parang death threat? Bakit ganun? Napunta sa ganun? Na pag-uwi, na baka may mangyari sa kanyang tatay? Why was that reference even mentioned? Or why was it a fear of the Vice President?
Okay, the best answer to that, of course, we can't really include sa mga voice over package sa atin yung buong sound bite or clarification, because it was really long, pero to answer that question kung saan nanggagaling yung fear na yon, ay sinabi niya, and we will quote her na lang, Gretchen, para hindi rin tayo masabihan ng angling, ay binabase lang natin or niya yung nangyari noon. Nakita naman natin yung nangyari noon, hindi naman na natin mabubura yung nangyari sa kasaysayan. Itong mga ito ay nagpapakita kung ano ang kapasidad or ang capacity nila to do these kinds of things. So, yun yung kanyang in-imply sa simula nung kanyang sagot sa clarification, kung saan ba yung hugot or saan galing yung although sinasabi niya yun ay galing do sa fear bilang daughter para sa kanyang ama, ay kung saan ano yung basis nun. Ang basis nun, I think it's mainly trust sa side ni Vice President Sara Duterte, Gretchen, na maraming nasa siguro na experience na hindi maganda do sa relationship nung dating ka-unity team nila, ay kaya meron siyang pagdududa. Parang ganun lumalabas yung kanyang or meat ng kanyang clarificatory statement.
Talking about threats, there was a reported bomb threat in the office of the Vice President. Did she react to that? Did you mention that to her?
She was asked by one of our kasamahan sa media about that. Sinabi niya, kasi parang ang actually kung hindi niya nasagot, magpa-follow up sana ako doon, Gretchen, kasi parang baka may need for her to go back, kasi may mga nagaganap sa kanyang tanggapan or ang OVP. Ang sinabi lang niya, merong SOPs in place pag kami magandang threats, is nothing new according to her, at alam na nila ng mga kawani na naiwan kung ano yung gagawin, like kung kailangan mag-evacuate, they did evacuate, and she told this story of an applicant who was there during the evacuation, and hindi na daw tumuloy doon sa application nung pagsasabit ng application niya or pagpaprocess, kasi parang natakot na ganito pala ang sitwasyon dito. So natawa naman yung mga supporters doon, pero yun yung sinasabi niya. At ituloy na natin doon, kasi nga ang dapat na follow-up question doon, Gretchen, ay kung may need ka na ba kayong bumalik ng Pilipinas, because of course meron kayong posisyon bilang Vice Presidente, hindi na tanong yon, pero in a way nasagot niya na she will be staying here until hindi nga matapos yung hindi ma-approve yung legal panel ng kanyang father. At of course, there will be a celebration pa or meron pang okasyon this coming weekend dito because of the birthday of for her father, at parating na rin nga dito yung mga kaanak niya, yung sister niya at saka yung respective mothers nila, Gretchen, So ano ang plan for Friday? they don't want, based on her statement, they don't want to push for another meet and greet na ganyan, na may stage, merong sound system, may mga barricade, saka magsasalita o may mga speaker, because it's it only means sa pagkaganyan yung setup, they will need to apply for permits. You know how strict things are here sa The Hague. Hindi naman strict, how orderly they are here, Gretchen. So, pero allowed kasi na kahit na ganyan karaming tao, kung gusto nila mag-picnic lang dyan, without really an occasion na announce at saka walang ganyang system, they can do it. So, ang pinupush ni Vice President ay mag-picnic na lang dyan sa park or kung saan mang venue. Pupuntahan na lang nila yung bawat pagkukumpol na picnic, at pasarapan na lang daw ng pagkain, kesa daw magkaroon ng organized na katulad niyan, which will need preparation and of course permits.
At sabi mo nga, mukhang papunta na si Kitty at saka si Elizabeth Zimmerman dyan. Is there any timeline to that? At may request ba ang dating Pangulo para sa kanyang 80th birthday?
Wala namang specific na request sa sinabi doon, may mga, yung paulit-ulit na sinasabi na brand ng soft drinks na kailangan niya at least twice a day, or gusto niya na consume twice a day. Tapos yung Filipino food, medyo give up na siya doon, although nakakain na doon ng rice ulit, give up na daw kasi nga hindi pa talaga maalam or hindi pa expertise ng mga nagluluto dito yung at least yung ganong klaseng pagkain natin. Na sinabi nga kahapon sa speech ni Vice President Gretchen ay nagpadala siya ng PDF file or ng printout ng kung ano yung pwedeng lutuin ng mga simpleng putahe from the Philippines.
Actually, ang pinaka-curious ako ay kung kompleto na yung mga pangalan ng legal team ng dating Pangulo. I mean, sabi nila meron na silang listahan, but did she give out the actual names, yung mga papapirma niya kay Digong?
She didn't, at ang naging ang naging dahilan kung ba't umiiwas sila to name it. Hindi siya basically, part lang siya, hindi pati yung si Attorney Kaufman na sabihin to, because they don't want us, the media or other agencies to hound them. Kasi na nag-iingat about it kasi they don't want to reveal the names nga Pero dahil paulit-ulit yung ambush interview since yesterday, nare-realize namin na baka hindi pa talaga kompleto kasi the fact na hindi pa maka-alis si Vice President Sara Duterte dito. Diba? Sabi niya ang senyales lang na pwede siyang umalis dito pag talagang kompleto na yung assigned na membership ng legal team nila.
But also that has to be finalized very soon because also of the deadlines. I believe April 4, tama yung...
4 and 11. Yung dalawang panels will have to submit. May mga submissions sila. So kailangan na nila lang buuin yan. And I think kaya siguro hindi rin talaga napagkikita si Attorney Kaufman dito sa vicinity ay dahil mukhang yan ang kailang pinaghahandaan.
Maasahan ba natin na doon sa April 4 at April 11 may mga witnesses o napupunta sa Hague or wala pa yon sa proseso?
Submissions pa lang, Gretchen. Pero syempre yung submissions na yun, di ba nakalagay doon sa notice ng ICC because they want to make sure din na itong mga witnesses na na ililista ay protected na as soon as sila ma-include doon sa roster.
Oo. Jovi, malinaw rin ba kung maaari bang magdagdag in the process? I mean, na kunwari nag-present yung prosecution ng witnesses nila and then along the way, they would continue on adding witnesses to that or pag sinabi ng ito na yun, natanong mo ba yung ganong parte?
Hindi ko natanong pero parang may impression ako na of course siguro sa kakanood natin ng mga legal shows na pwede lalo na kung talagang very vital yung discovery do sa witness na yun. I think there are ways of doing it, although iba siguro dito sa The Hague and we will try to find out kung anong kaibahan nila. Parang doon sa pakipag-usap natin doon sa panel ng mga lawyers sa kabilang side nung dumating tayo dito. Hindi pala, yung at least yung mga tumutulong sa kanila. Parang maski naman sila parang kumakalap pa lang din sila. Meron na sila, pero sino ba talaga yung malalakas doon na pwedeng sila yung ihanay agad doon.
Because over here in the Philippines, there are calls to establish a Justice or Truth Commission or a safe space for victims to come out at natulungan sila ng gobyerno para maglakas loob na ibigay ang kanilang testimonya. Kaya natin natanong yan. Pero for now, we do know that there's still a lot to come up. So abangan mo na si Nicholas Kaufman muli mamaya pagising mo.
Yes.
Baka nandiyan ng umaga.
Pwede mo natin isnabin si Senator Amy before tayo mag
Oo
good
nga,
morning.
go ahead.
Because natanong is I think that's the last question before natapos yung ambush interview. I remember na parang yun na yung mga huli sa mga follow up. Parang tinanong yung are you concerned na parang mukhang na alis dun sa line up daw or kaya ay parang tila napapabayaan yung kandidatura ni Senator Amy Marcos. Sabi ng Vice Presidente sa inalulungkot at kasabay niya nagpapasalamat siya na at least ay meron daw nagbukas ng investigasyon sa Senado tungkol doon sa pagkakaaresto sa kanyang ama. Pero nang tinanong natin or namin yung ang Vice Presidente kung ba't hindi pwede bang i-adopt ng Duterte group si Senator Amy dahil may sarili na naman silang line-up ay parang non-committal or sinabi ni Vice President na wala sa mga kamay niya at wala siya magagawa doon. Dahil yung lineup na yun daw, ang may hawak nun ay si former President Duterte at hindi siya. Siya ay pwede lang sumuporta.
Mukhang nakatuon pa rin naman ang Vice Presidente sa mga pangyayari dito. But in the meantime, maraming salamat sa inyong mga update. Tututukan namin yan all throughout our news programs on One News and TV5. Of course, that was Jovi Francisco reporting to us live from The Hague on Morning Matters. Well, China has denied receiving any asylum requests from former President Rodrigo Duterte and his family. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun said Duterte's visit to Hong Kong was purely personal and not political. Duterte attended an event for overseas Filipino workers in Hong Kong on March 7. Earlier, one of the former president's lawyers, former Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello, also denied that he applied for asylum in Beijing. These statements follow reports that Duterte's supposed request was rejected, forcing him to return to the Philippines. He was arrested on March 11 at Ninoy Aquino International Airport after his trip. Don't go away. We'll be back with more stories right after this break. Welcome back. You're still watching us here on Morning Matters on One News. The National Bureau of Investigation is looking into 20 vloggers and content creators suspected of spreading false information online. NBI Director Jaime Santiago said investigators have observed a recurring pattern in their content, raising concerns about a possible coordinated effort to mislead the public. The NBI is working with the National Telecommunications Commission and the Department of Information and Communications Technology to identify those involved, including Filipino vloggers based overseas. While Santiago acknowledged the right to free speech, he warned that legal action would be taken against individuals who engage in libel or incite public disorder. In sports, Filipino tennis star Alex Yala is heading to the quarterfinals of the Miami Open. This is after world number 11 Paula Badosa withdrew from the tournament due to an injury. Yala had previously stunned fans with a dominant win over world number 5 Madison Keys. The victory makes her the first Filipina to defeat a top 10 player in WTA history. Meanwhile, the family of Ninoy Aquino Jr. in Malacanang have dismissed Vice President Sara Duterte's comparison of her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, to the late democracy icon. Here's the report.
The Aquino family opposed Vice President Sara Duterte's comparison of her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, to the late Senator Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. According to the family, history shows that what happened to Ninoy is different from what Duterte is experiencing. During a gathering in the Hague, Netherlands, VP Sara likened Aquino's fate to what could happen to her father if he returned to the Philippines. Malacanang also rejected VP Sara's remarks. In a press briefing, Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro noted that there is no record of Duterte likening himself to Aquino, but there is documented evidence of the former president comparing himself to Adolf Hitler.
Parang hindi po natin nadinig noon na inahilin tulad ni dating Pangulong Duterte ang sarili niya kay Ninoy, kung hindi kay Hitler. Meron po siyang sinabi mismo, sinabi pa niya dito, and I quote, Hitler massacred 3 million, actually it's supposed to be 6 million Jews. Now there is 3 million, what is it? 3 million drug addicts in the Philippines. There are. I'd be happy to slaughter them. At least if Germany had Hitler, the Philippines would have me. So napakalayo pong ipakumpara ang sarili o ikumpara ang dating Pangulong Duterte kay Ninoy Aquino na hindi nagkaroon ng anumang record ng mass murder or crimes against humanity.
She also questioned claims of threats against Duterte's life, urging for proof and evidence.
Kailangan po natin kasi ng mga materyales, ng mga ebidensya bago po magsagawa ng ganitong mga klaseng statements. Wala pong katotohanan yan.
Meanwhile, Senate President Jesus Escudero slams the Duterte family for suggesting that the AFP should have opposed former President Duterte's arrest. He questioned Vice President Sara Duterte's criticism of the military during a Senate hearing, accusing her of stoking conflict between soldiers and police. Escudero said the AFP only assisted in a lawful operation and should not be dragged into political disputes. For his part, Defense Secretary Gov't echoed that the military must remain under civilian control and never act independently. Now let's get back to our story on the government's efforts against fake news. We have on the line NBI Director Jaime Santiago to talk to us more about that. Magandang umaga po sa inyo, Director.
Hi, good morning ma'am at sa mga nakikinig sa atin.
Director, ito po nga story po natin that you're requesting for the Interpol's help to go after the 20 vloggers that you've drawn up. Am I getting that correct, that that there is that possibility that the Interpol may be tapped?
Yes po, yung mga vloggers po na nasa abroad, yun po ay maaaring humingi kami ng tulong pagka nakapag-file na po kami ng kaso dito. Ganun po yun.
Okay. Ito pong listahan po ninyo, you cited that you have a list of 20 plus vloggers for disinformation campaigns. How did you come up with this list at sino-sino po ang kasama dyan?
Ay, hindi ko po masasabi kung sino-sino, no? But then, sinasabi ko noon pa na nagmo-monitor kami. But this time, masyado na pong laganap, nakaka-alarma na po para sa ating mamamayan at lahat. Kaya we take serious steps. As a matter of fact, last week lang, nagpag-meeting na kami sa DICT, sa NTC, kung paano kami makakapagtulungan na masawata natin itong mga ganitong bagay.
Maaari po bang malaman yung nature ng disinformation na nakikita nyo, nababasa po ninyo that you are tracking as false information online?
Katulad po yung isang creator na hinuli namin sa Cebu. Yun pong post ng isang radio station, TV station, ay binago niya. Inalter niya at kung ano-ano sinabi at pinapalabas niya that the president gusto ma-legalize ang droga dito sa ating bayan. Hindi po tama yun. Talagang kitang-kitang false news po yun. At nung hulihin namin, hinarap namin siya sa media at umamin naman siya na kumikita siya sa pagda-vlog niya na gano'n at humihingi ng tawad, hindi niya na raw uulitin at kinakailangan niya lang daw ng pera. Yun po, ganun po yun.
Parang News 5 po yata yung pinapatungkulan nyo. Ano? If I'm getting that correct, sa aming istasyon yun. Tama naman po kayo, no? That our station did not broadcast that. So that in itself is disinformation. But how about the other cases? Are you talking about yung mga parang altered photos po mainly dito? Pag sinabi po nating disinformation, yung mga, kasi marami po tayo nakikita rin ng mga memes na iba yung nagsabi, tapos iba yung quote na nakadikit. Yun po ba ay kasama?
Yes po. For example, papakita yung litrato mo, pero tapos iba yung sinasabi, hindi mo naman sinabi yun. Yung mga ganun po, yan po ay binabantayan namin maigi at nakapile po sa amin yan. Meron na po kaming compilation ng kanilang press releases. Mag-case build up kami ngayon at maaaring supinahan namin muna sila or i-file na namin agad ang case sa DOJ para maimbestigahan sila. Ganun po.
Director, ito po ba ay related sa mga recent events po natin? Alam natin now with the arrest of the former president in the ICC na mas dumami pa, no, yung ganyang kumakalat na maling impormasyon online. I mean, are you leaning towards that angle of capturing false information during this period of time? Or parang are you casting the net wide?
Yes, opo, net-wide po yan. Hindi lamang po yung present na yung dahil sa pagkaka-aresto kay dating Pangulong Duterte. Lahat po ng anggulo, lahat po ng hindi misinformation ay iniimbestigahan po namin yun. Dahil ang mamamayan natin nalilito na. Ganun po yun.
Meron po ba kayo nakikitang pattern or central figure here na nagpapalaganap ng disinformation? Because you also mentioned that there may be somebody responsible for propagating this.
Yes, opo. We're looking into that. Parang merong nagkukumpat sa kanila. May nagsasabi, may nagtipinance. Tinitignan po namin yung anggulo na yun. Kasi pare-pareho sila ng tema na parang ang pakay lang makapanggulo. Parang ganun po. Kaya tinitignan po natin maigi po yan.
Pero hindi po ba napakahirap din na matrace yung mga post online to its original source, to the one who actually created the content, kung yung gumawa ng meme, yung nag-post, pati na rin yung sino nag-uutos. I mean, how do you establish all those links and be able to identify sino po yung talagang nasa likod ng mga yon?
Yun po. Yun nga po ang aalamin namin dito sa ginagawa namin pagmomonitor. At masabi ko na po sa inyo, ang Facebook, for example, is very cooperative. Actually nga, meron na kaming napatir daw na ibang post, pero yung particular vlogger na yun, ang dami palang anong tawag dito, yung apps nila, account, maraming account. Kaya napatir daw namin yung isang account, tira pa rin doon sa kabilang account, at marami siyang account. Kaya salbahe talaga, makikita mo yung malice, yung bad intention sa kanya. Okay.
Director, there are fears that this list that you have may lean towards one group, particularly, for example, the pro-Duterte group that has been summoned before the Tri-Committee in Congress. How do you balance this off? I mean, na hindi maging political persecution ito?
Ay, hindi po. Alam niyo po, ma'am, ako bilang former judge, nare-respeto ko po yung ating freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Kakaisa po ninyo ako dyan ng ating mamamayan. Kaya tinitimbang po namin, binabalanse po namin. Maaaring mag-comment ka, yan ang feeling mo, yan ang paniwala mo. Okay lang yan, mag-comment ka. That is freedom of expression, freedom of speech. But then, kung lumalampas ka na sa parameter ng batas, for example, kayo po ma'am, sasabihin nyo na, mali naman yung sinasabi ni Director Santiago. Okay lang po yun, no? Pero lumampas ka na, yung nilait-lait mo na ako, pinagmumura mo na ako, na pati yung kung ano pa man, pinagsasabi mo na laban sa akin, ay lampas na po yun. Ganun po yun, ma'am. Nire-respeto ko po ang karapatan ng ating mamamayan sa freedom of speech and freedom of expression. At ang aking mga ahente po ay well-guided sa aking, sa guidance ko na yan. Ganun po.
Director, ibig sabihin po yung pagmumura po ay lagpas na doon sa sa parameter ng batas? Hindi po pwede bang magmura? I mean, isn't that also a part of freedom of expression?
Yes, freedom of expression. Pero remember, meron tayong unjust vexation. Yung nang-iinis ka na, nang-aasar ka na, yung basta't murahin ka na lang na basta, although, ito pa rin ang isang binabalanse ko. Kaming mga nasa government position, kaming mga opisyal ng gobyerno, hindi kami dapat maging onion skin. Kaya yung hanggat ang dami naman pong ganun eh. Ang dami namang nagmumura, nanlalait. Sige lang. Hindi kami onion skin. But then, yun lang yung sobra na, ma'am. Ang sinasabi ko, yung labis na po. Yung labis na.
Pero hindi po ba yung charges niyan ay dapat manggaling po doon sa minura? O kaya doon sa
yes,
subject?
Tama po.
Hindi po galing sa gobyerno? Oo.
Yes, tama po yun.
So, have their
Halimbawa,
charges been filed by, at your office?
Yes, hindi po. Tama po kayo, ma'am. Halimbawa, isang congressman, isang senador, o isang opisyal ng gobyerno, pinagmumura, nilalait, hindi naman kumikibo. Kayaan lang, dahil hindi nga siya onion skin, wala kaming magagawa doon. Ganun po yun, opo.
Bilang panghuli po, ano po yung binabalak po natin i-file na mga charges dito sa mga vloggers that you may tag for disinformation?
Marami po. Unang-una, libel, no? Inciting to sedition, unjust vexation. At titignan din po namin yung anggulo na kumikita sila sa pag-vlog nila na yan, pay earning, nagbabayad pa ng tax. Titignan din po namin yung anggulo na yan. Kaya medyo maanong investigasyon po ito, ma'am. Seryoso po kami at iniingatan po namin, binabalanse po namin sa karapatan ng ating mga mamamayan.
When are you expecting, when can we expect rather to see the list of those included on this list?
Yung pong investigasyon namin ay meantime ay sa amin po muna. At malalaman nyo, pagka meron na kaming pinaila na kaso o pinatawag dito sa NBI, ay malalaman nyo rin po kung sino-sino sila.
Alright, maraming salamat. Thank you so much for your time this morning at sa pagpapaliwanag po. We have NBI Director Jaime Santiago joining us on Morning Matters talking about fake news and the government's fight against it.
Salamat po. Salamat.
Stay tuned. We have more to come on Morning Matters right after this short break. My name is Gretchen Ho, and this is Morning Matters. Well, today we talked about the government probing several vloggers and content creators for allegedly spreading false information online. How do fake news and disinformation affect politics and the upcoming midterm elections? And to discuss that, along with other pressing matters, we have former COMELEC Commissioner and Partido sa Bagong Pilipino Party List first nominee, Attorney Goyo Larazabal. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Thanks for having me here. Magandang umaga.
Okay, pag-usapan muna natin itong probe on fake news. Kasi narinig mo yung conversation namin ni NBI Director Jaime Santiago. Your experience with that, with the fighting fake news, when you were COMELEC Commissioner, and that affecting the election results and the environment, and also what you're seeing now?
It's hard because before there was basically it was a Wild West before sa 2010, and anyone can just make wild accusations. I'm happy now that COMELEC is actually running after people who share fake information, share fake news, kasi you have to nip it in the bud. You have to show people that that spreading false information is not only affecting them but also affects the whole electoral process. That's bad. So I'm happy they're doing it.
But isn't it easy also for that to go the other way? Na when government does start defining what is true and what is false, it could also border on possibly affecting opinions online, posted online. Na maaaring sabihin nating facts ito, pero paano kung sabihin nila na yung sentimento mo ay mali?
Okay, that's a good point. What happens is that if the government or some individual or candidate or stakeholder believes that a candidate, supporter, whatever, or vlogger shares false information, they can file a case, right? And it's up to the COMELEC to resolve that. So it's not yet automatic. It's not automatic conviction, but you have to know that they should be made accountable. Hindi pwedeng you make a statement, bahala na si Batman. Ito, if you make a statement, you have to understand that there are consequences to the statements you make. It's good. I like it.
Do you think we have enough laws, or currently, do our laws have enough teeth in it
Well,
to be able to go after? Kasi sabi niya kanina, ito meron yung unjust vexation, kapag ka minura ka ng sobra-sobra.
slander, di ba?
Merong libel, meron inciting to sedition. I mean, do you think all of that's enough? Walang need for a new law to be able to punish those spreading disinformation?
I think there are laws naman now regarding those issues and punishing those acts. More than enacting new laws, I think there should be a thrust on implementation of those laws and making people accountable. So we have good laws. Ang problema lang hindi na-implement. So the threat of being made to face your consequences has to be there. The people have to be aware that if they make a statement, there are repercussions, and they have to be aware of those.
But have you been in tune with the recent TRICOM hearings over in Congress, where they questioned the vloggers over their posts online, na meron pang isang parte na sinabihan tanga yung gobyerno, na sinagot naman ni Congressman Benny Abante na ba't mo sinasabihang tanga yung gobyerno? I mean,
There was? Sorry.
Meron, may ganun. Okay.
The past few days, past few weeks actually, I'm so busy going around the Philippines.
Okay, all right.
Snippets lang, but parang there's like one vlogger.
When I say it could border on restricting freedom of expression and speech, syempre, kahit nasabihin nating meron kang sinabing masakit, like tanga yung somebody or something, that's also part of it, right?
Yeah, but you know, when you're in government, you can't be thin-skinned, di ba? So that's also, like for example, again, I'm not saying about others, I'm saying sa amin before, masakit yung sinasabi ng iba, but you know, you're there in government, so that's part of it. But there's a limit. If you think that you're being disparaged to a point that it affects your reputation, you can go to court. And if they feel that some people have crossed the line, there are steps they can take. They can file cases against those people. You go through the process. Hindi pwedeng, okay, may ginawa ka, pagkatapos, sa tingin ko mali ka, hatol ka agad. Hindi pwede yun.
And of course, there are qualms over whether this mechanism of Congress hearings could be abused, and it could lead to political persecution.
Okay.
So you are running for congressman, a party list,
Yes.
a representative. So I think this is relevant to
Again,
the field that you want to enter, right?
Again, we're talking kasi about two things. First is address your issues in the courts, and these hearings, di ba? Hearings, they're not whatever happens there, they're not going to imprison them. They can't impose a penalty under the law. Diba? They can probably cite them in contempt, but that's just the first step. If they really feel that a person has disparaged them or committed slander, they can file a case in court. And that's the right thing to do.
Well, to be honest, it's not quite clear what where the TRICOM investigation is going.
I don't.
If this is supposed to be in aid of legislation, di ba?
So what's the law? What are the laws? What are the bills they're
Yun din ang
proposing?
katanungan ng lahat. Ano?
What are the bills they're proposing that will hopefully be laws, di ba? Yeah, that has to be answered siguro. But again, if you think that a person committed slander against you, you file a case against them in court.
All right. Spoken like a true lawyer. And speaking of, you are running
Yes.
for party list representative of Partido sa Bagong Pilipino.
Yes.
You ran last in 2022 as Leyte district representative. What made you shift to the party list sector?
Well, the running sa district was a last-minute decision. The party list was I've been asked to run for national since 2013. I've always said no. So now, I wanted to say no now, but can't say no anymore kasi tumakbo na ako before. So I'm running as the first nominee, and I'm the president of Partido sa Bagong Pilipino. And it's a national position. And I think hopefully we win, and hopefully we'll be able to enact few laws that will help our kababayans.
Ano ba yung Partido sa Bagong Pilipino? Paano nabuo yan?
Okay, Partido sa Bagong Pilipino is a regional political party that was conceptualized back in 2019. It espoused rural development, focusing programs to help and empower the barangays and the LGUs. We're not into ayudas or whatever project. We're into helping them help themselves. Specifically, we focus on 4 things, but the 2 main are providing clean and safe drinking water and affordable health care. That includes revitalizing the Doctors Tabares program and digitizing the whole barangay healthcare system in the Philippines. Kasi I think that's something that has been overlooked for too long a time.
Saang barangay nag-ugat ito? Itong Partido sa Bagong Pilipino? I mean,
Okay. So
out of all the possible advocacies or thrusts of the party, saan nag-ugat? Ano yung kwento ng Partido ng Bagong Pilipino?
So when I retired from Comelec in 2011, I retired in 2011, tagal na yun.
Tagal na.
Tagal na yun. But I still appeared in media because people still ask me to explain the election. So I had the habit of driving around the Philippines solo. I drive like 1 week at a time. And when I'd go there, I wouldn't go to a nice hotel. I would go to the barangays and talk to the mga officials. There's no plan for politics at that time. And they say, how can I help? And I noticed that the problems of one barangay in, for example, Santan Gudarat are the same problems in the province of La Union up north. Or if you go to Tanhay in Negros, or if you go to Palumpon in Leyte, or San Francisco, it's the same problem na we help, we give water filtration systems, we give medicines, but we feel that there has to be institutional change on how to provide better services to the barangays. Not saying that, it's like, instead of complaining, we just act, and we feel that we can help the government provide more services.
Like, what do you mean institutionalize the way a barangay works? Ano
That's a
ibig
good
sabihin
question.
nun?
Okay, for example, water, safe and clean drinking water. In 2023, the statistics of UNICEF said that 53% of all households in the Philippines do not have access to clean and safe drinking water. It's 55% for public schools. I talked with Secretary Sani Angara, and I said, hey, kung manalo kami, we want to help with the schools also. So that one. In the age of access to internet via satellite, 53% of all households in the Philippines do not have water. That's bad, di ba? So, if we file a bill to empower the LGUs to access or develop rainwater systems and attach water filtration systems to those structures, that would help provide more water to the barangays. It won't solve all the problems, but it will lessen the number of Filipinos who do not have access to water. Water is so important because they say, why don't you talk about agriculture? Why don't you talk about urban farming? Our reply is, okay, if you talk about agriculture, you talk about urban farming, what's the most essential element of it? Water. So you have to have water. And they say, that, why don't you have this, the issue of managing water districts? Sabi ko, sandali. Before we talk about the issue of managing water districts, we have to make sure that they have actually water to manage. So water is there. Then we jump to healthcare. Most of the barangay health centers in the Philippines, ang laman lang, pasensya ang laman nandun, pang pa-BP. That's it. Walang medisina, walang gapas, nothing. The barangay healthcare workers are there, so we need to maximize their presence, make their job more proactive. You monitor the healthcare system in the barangays so you can better track, you can better address the concerns, and you can help make Filipinos healthier.
When you say barangays, it seems like you have such a large constituency, right? If ever you win as a congressman of that. How many barangays do we have in the Philippines?
It's about 42,000. Thereabouts. So,
sobrang dami.
So, yes, but
we have also a lot of poor barangays. Barangays that don't have budgets.
Yes. So what you do is...
And at the end of the day, it boils down to how much a barangay has to be able to implement also the changes that you want. So how do you plan to have the resources trickle down to the barangay level from where you stand or where you will stand?
We have our mindset is to think big, you need to think small. To think about solving big problems, you need to think small. So you start with the barangay. And when you talk about a possible solution for a barangay, that is replicatable all over the Philippines. How do you do that? You've seen articles where there are medicines that have expired, the millions, diba? Why? So there might be a problem with the distribution of the medicines. There might be a problem with allocation, so that has to be looked at through legislation. Providing health care, the Doctor Salvador's program is working now, and we say it's being implemented except in the BARM area. But you need to recharge that. You need to supercharge that. So people will now feel that the government is going to them. It's there, but parang nakakalimutan na siya eh. So you need to reinvigorate it. There are others who might advocate the same thing. We're all for it. The more people work on it, the better.
When it comes to the barangays that you've gone around, is are there particular barangays that have struck you? And sabi mo, ito yung nag-move sa akin, dito ko nakita na ito yung mga pagkukulang, ito dapat gawin. I mean, at saan yung mga barangay na yon?
Where do I start? Where do I start? But before I go there now, let me say that, it's very humbling when we were in Hawan, in General Luna, in Siargao. We were the first party list nominees who went there. And when talk about the programs about, healthcare, lights, water, parang ang feeling na, umiiyak sila, sabi na, uy, at least napapansin na kami. And a lot of them have the same feeling na, parang, uy, napapansin kami. So, we've gone to several barangays. There's one barangay, remember, ang cost ng diatab doon, sorry if I mentioned, is 506 pesos. Alam mo bakit? Kasi the medicine is only about 6 pesos. But to go to that barangay from the poblacion is 250 because there's no roads. Halaba-haba lang. So ang biro nila, which half-heartedly masakit, is 505 or 506 pesos yung medicine for diarrhea because the cost of transportation is 500.
It's higher.
Than ano. So, imagine if you can make that barangay more accessible. You don't need to asphalt it. You just need to make roads na yung mga multi-cab can pass instead of habal-habal. And the effect there would the cost would be less. And tourism will increase because people can go there like Hinatuan, di ba?
Well, I asked that question because it's probably not your own barangay that needs a lot of help, right? I mean, where you come from, ang daming barangay na mas nangangailangan pa, di ba? Tama ako?
Yes.
And this question stems from the criticism that of the structure of current party list groups in Congress,
Okay.
that they do not actually represent the marginalized. Sabi nga ng kontradaya, 7 out of 10 party list groups in the current elections have been hijacked by political clans, big businesses, state interests. Well, the Supreme Court has actually defined the party list as advocacies. Hindi
Yes.
siya nakasentro sa marginalized groups. But do you think there is, do you think that's fair? And that embodies the spirit of the party list sector.
So basically, there are parties who represent marginal sectors of society, and there are regional political parties. We're a regional political party. Let me jump one step ahead, and there have been people who have been asking, what about amending the party list law? Are you in favor of it? Sure, why not, di ba? All laws have to be reviewed every so often. So if they want to review the party list law, I'm all for it.
But do you think there's a need to reword it in a sense that it does not actually just say that, they allow all groups with advocacies, parang ilang araw dapat maging membro ka nito. You don't necessarily need to be part of the marginalized sector to represent it. Do you think there's a need to reword it in a sense that it does represent the marginalized sector?
I think it's up to Congress, next Congress hopefully, on passing a bill and discussing it on amending the party list law.
Because there has been a debate, even in the Constitutional Commission noong 1987, si Father Joaquin Bernas even proposed that a fixed number of congressional seats be set aside for those who are marginalized because of the difficulty in competing
Yes.
against politically and financially established groups. Kumbaga, kapag wala kang pera, paano ka tatakbo, paano ka lalaban? And sinasabi nga
Kayod.
nung kontradaya na dinodomina na ito ng mga malalaking negosyo, ng mga taong may salapi.
Well, I'm happy to say that sa amin wala kaming nominees na in politics. So, bago kami lahat.
But Beaver Lopez is also a nominee.
Yeah. So, bago kami lahat, we're not in politics.
Uh-huh.
So, we're not in politics.
But behind you is also the Lopez family. Is that correct?
Beaver is there. Beaver's one of the nominees, and we discussed it. And this is his own personal thrust because he wants to give back to the communities.
But do you think that it's fair? What's happening now with the party list system? Na yun na nga, 7 out of 10.
We can amend that. Congress can amend that. It's up to them. Hopefully, we'll be part of that, and we'd be open to discussing that, amending the party list law.
So you're for it?
Yeah, 100%.
How? In what way?
Well,
What
that's-
would you amend?
Okay, sandali ha. Kasi you don't want to jump ahead, but if there will be a bill, we'll actually support it. Now, the particulars about it, that has to be discussed at committee level and the plenary.
Okay. Let's talk about the electoral law since you were a
Okay.
former COMELEC commissioner. When it comes to premature campaigning, there is no, in the sense of the word premature campaigning and the definition of a candidate, parang walang premature campaigning.
Yes.
Your thoughts on that? And what can we do about that?
Okay, there's the decision kasi came out before kasi the start of the campaign is right after the last day of the filing. Kasi manual elections pa to eh. So, ang mangyayari doon is that candidate, pagkatapos nag-file, nag-motorcade. So, sabi ng Supreme Court na you're only a candidate at the start of the campaign period. So, that, in effect, it was referring to manual elections. Automated elections, when you have the filing ahead by how many months, iba na yon. So, what we can do is we can file a bill amending that and saying that a person is a candidate at the end of the filing of the COC. But if you do that, you look at it on a piecemeal basis, no, on solving the problems electoral process. So what you should do, I would suggest you have a holistic overhaul of our election laws. Kasi you have to deal with the election offenses, you have to deal with the mga procedures, you have to deal with the powers.
Is that something you're also looking at? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
if you do win a Congress seat.
Oh yes, that's what we've been espousing that since I was a Comelec official pa. Unfortunately, it hasn't yet.
How has campaigning changed for you? I mean, with all the TikTok dancing, what have you had to do? This is a national seat.
Okay.
How are you doing your own form of
I
campaigning?
can't sing. I can't dance. I play music. I mix, but I don't. And for me, I do TikTok, but my TikTok is informing people about issues. Pasensya na, I don't dance again. But I believe that social media can be used as a tool to inform people. A lot of people, admittedly, vote for candidates because they entertain the electorate. Ay, gusto ko yan kasi magaling sumaya. Natutuwa ako, but you have to change that mindset. You have to understand that you're there not to entertain. You're there to help make lives better. If you can't do that, think of something else.
Basta wag lang kalimutan ng kalusugan, ano?
Kalusugan.
Habang nangangampanya. I mean, your final words to those in the elections, you did talk about taking care of your health.
Yes. So, we're 91 in ballot. We're espousing rural development, focusing on the barangay. A lot of candidates, and even a lot of supporters, don't forget, monitor your health. I have 3 monitoring systems. Two. I have a Ring health monitor. I have a smartwatch, and I have tools to help me make sure that my BP is stable. And you wanna be healthy. You want to campaign. You want to share the message, but you need to be healthy. Sorry.
And set the alarms,
yes.
right?
But before if you go, let me give you this. You remember the last time we met?
Oh yeah.
At Scarborough. So that's sand from Scarborough Shoal. I told you I'd give it. So that's when I went to Scarborough Shoal last year. I got a small sand. That's
Ito
for you.
nakapuslit pa siya, Goyo Larzabal, papuntang Scarborough without anybody trying to block his path. But ngayon, mukhang mayroong mga
You can't anymore go there.
bloke doon, ano?
Cannot.
All right, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank
I'm
you very
afraid
much.
that's all the time we have for today. We have a former Comelec Commissioner and Partido sa Bagong Pilipino Party List First Nominee, Attorney Goyo Larzabal. Doesn't that sound like the government slogan, though?
No, kasi our party was founded in 2019 pa eh. Party list.
Well, okay, that's it for today's episode of Morning Matters. My name is Gretchen Ho. We are One News, all sides, all the time.